Warning! This contains spoilers for the story in Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk 2077 was possibly one of the most hyped games in the history of gaming. As such, it was doomed to fail since Keanu Reeves took the stage years ago. On a marketing level, the hype was too strong even for the likes of Johnny Silverhand's overpowered prologue scene. The bugs and glitches in the game have created a tsunami of keyboard warriors and online entertainers coming out of the woodwork to get their own witty joke about the utter failure this garbage had become.
What?
I cannot disagree more with this mindset. Cyberpunk was doomed to fail, with or without the bugs, because the hype was too much. It was announced too early. Not unlike comparison being the thief of happiness, expectation is the thief of enjoyment. You see, no matter how well made it may have been, entire channels on YouTube have been dedicated almost solely speculating, pontificating, and guessing what will be for the game when it was released. Put yourselves in the position of CD Projekt Red. What options do you really have? Delay further and earn the ire of these communities whose livelihood is almost entirely based on your product? Release it now and patch as you go, creating entire communities anew whose sole existence in this life is to shit on your game. There was no winning for them. And yet again, a perfectly good game was ruined by the very community it was created for. The preamble for this video is nearly over, as the purpose of this video is to talk about and examine the story laid out before us in Cyberpunk, but I do want to end on this. It is your fault that the gaming industry is becoming stale, cruel, and half-assed. Be patient. Stop buying every AAA title coming out from studios you can't stand. Demand better and more unique storytelling and gameplay. Have respect for projects you aren't personally a fan of when they are being creative with how game mechanics work. Have some damn principle. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the one thing in Cyberpunk everyone forgot about when they first saw an NPC T-posing out of a vehicle. And the most important part about it. The story. In the beginning of Cyberpunk, you choose your backstory. And aside from lots of flavor text, it doesn't seem to impact much past the prologue's prologue. But that change still affects one thing very important. How you see your character. And in some ways, by extension, yourself in the real world. Although that probably doesn't apply to the penis slider unless you're a real bona fide masochist. Whatever backstory you pick serves more to ground your own personality in the story. When I was growing up, I decided I needed to get out of where I was from and run away. I felt like if I could get out of there, everything would change for the better. The stars would align and my life would be perfect. I didn't realize this is why I chose the nomad backstory, but it is. And sure, maybe you thought long and hard about the character you wanted to roleplay as, and that character was totally disconnected from yourself. But to what extent is it even possible to disconnect yourself from your player character? How much of you is left behind in their actions and deeds? Don't ask me. I'm just speculating and pontificating and guessing. But my gut tells me there's still something there. What the hell does this have to do with Cyberpunk? You're probably wondering by this point. The beginning of Cyberpunk 2077 has you befriending a nice Hispanic chap named Jackie.
Are you Wells?
Jackie, por favor.
Getting to know a sweet young lady named Misty.
People in this town, they've lost their spiritual connection.
And owing a debt of gratitude to your doctor and friend, Victor.
Don't be mean now. Remember, I'm old. I got a shaky Gannic hand. Could slip.
Your only goal? To become legendary or die trying.
Gonna be a legend in this city.
Whatever backstory you chose, you're insignificant. And I don't just mean your character. I mean you. There's 7 billion people on Earth, and basically none of them give a damn about you. Except for your very own real-world Jackie, Misty, and Victor. One of the first questions the game asks you is, would you rather live a quiet life and fade away into obscurity, or go down in a blaze of glory?
Would you rather live in peace as Miss Nobody, die ripe, old, and smelling slightly of urine, or go down for all times in a blaze of glory smelling near like posies without seeing your 30th?
When they asked me, I had to pause, reflect, and consider this. Which one do I really want? Which one do we all want? Most people would say go down in a blaze of glory. There's so much noise in this world, and if you could be louder than it, even for a second, even if that second is your last, isn't it worth it? Don't we all deserve that yippee-ki-yay motherfucker moment? So you move on, the man who asked you this question in the first place being Dex, the shining golden black Jesus of the afterlife, as Jackie calls him. Dex sets you and Jackie up with a gig to steal some whatchamacallit from the big bads. Because corporations are evil and no one gives a shit if you ruffle their feathers but them. But really, you and Jackie could give a lesser shit. For you two, this is about that die-hard moment. Your very own yippee-ki-yay. This job could make you both legends. The very kind who eventually have a drink named after them at the afterlife.
Say I wanted to have a drink named after me. What would I have to do?
Snuff it. Mind-blowingly spectacular fashion. Mid-op would be best.
What a beautiful tradition.
And that's all you ever wanted, right? To go down in a blaze of glory in search of that dream? Well, everything goes wrong, and a lot of people die. Turns out this thing you're stealing is a biochip storing the consciousness of some long-forgotten sleazy rock star. Only problem is, he's dying.
Afterlife, here we come, baby. Yeah!
You're both running as fast and as hard as you can while the entire world burns around you. All while blood pours out of him.
It's okay, V.
And just as you arrive at the meetup spot with the goods for Dex, Jackie finally gives up the big fight. Hands you the chip and dies unceremoniously in the backseat of a back-talking AI cab. Which of the two options from before do you think count for him?
Quiet life or blaze of glory?
You go into the apartment to talk to Dex. He has a surprise for you. A low-caliber bullet to the dome. And that's when the story really gets started. Instead of dying, you get to enjoy the last moments of Johnny Silverhand's life. A stark contrast to the viewing of the end of Jackie's, where you see very clearly what dying in a blaze of glory truly looks like. Johnny drops a nuke on the biggest baddest tower 57 years ago, and dies to some Marcus wannabe, but not before having his soul sucked into the chip you inserted into your head only moments before Dex shot you. Next thing you know, you're waking up in a landfill, and this biochip resurrected you after Black Jesus murdered you. I'm sure there's some irony in that. And what's the very first thing you see when you wake up? Dex getting a low-caliber bullet to the dome by one of the big bad henchmen, who then rescues you. And now you're both in the shit. You direct him to take you both to Victor, which is when you find out that the chip that saved your life is now slowly killing you, rewriting your consciousness to be more fitting for Johnny Silverhands. And it isn't long after that that you realize you have a hitchhiker. A bit more irony. Before this part of the story becomes ever present, Misty rolls your pathetic, worthless body to your apartment in a wheelchair and gives you 2 pills. One that holds back Johnny and slows the progression, and the other accelerates it. A choice. Go down in a blaze of glory or fade away with obscurity, peacefully. The rest of the game is you trying to get him out. What is really impressive about this story from this point forward is it really isn't being told by the main storyline. It's being told by the side quests. Johnny pops up from time to time to offer guidance, his opinion, and be overall pretty unpleasant. But you two begin to develop a relationship. He learns from you based on your actions, and you learn from him. He sort of helps fill that hole left in your binary heart when Jackie died. You go and meet people, and if you pursue it, they become important to you. You start to notice tarot card drawings on walls and speak with Misty about it, and she'll give you a tarot card reading and reliably inform you about what will be happening. You meet a nomad named Pan Am and save her clan.
And how's the jacket? Not too tight? Snug as a glove. Feels like I've been wearing it a while. Don't you think you have?
A hard-boiled detective named River and free his family from sadness by helping him rescue his nephew.
B, hey. So, here's the thing. I still remember what you did for us. For me and Randy. This city needs more people like you.
You fall in love with Judy as you help her come to terms with the death of her close friend through unconventional means, eventually promising that you'll fix this and run away together.
This is V. She's here for that BD role. And V, this is Judy.
You enjoy long talks about Takamura's past.
Perhaps it is a Bakaneko.
A Bakaneko? What's that?
It is a cat spirit. It brings misfortune, can restore the dead back to life.
Feline ghost? I suppose anything's possible.
All while Johnny is standing by to pass judgment on your actions, encouraging you in some cases, reprimanding you in others, but in all cases based on his rudimentary worldview. Basically, you start to fall in love. Not with Night City, not the gigs or the cars, but the confidants. Judy, River, Pan Am, but most of all Johnny. As you approach the climax of the story, you decide to help Johnny wrap up some unfinished business. You let him take over, so he can bang down strange strippers and get hammered. He goes and gets a tattoo, and from what you remember, completely fails to do the one thing you agreed he would do while he was driving. And you start to get mad. He took over your body for work and instead finger bangs a dirty stripper in a car, and all you can smell in the morning on your hands is patchouli and yeast. Then you open up your inventory and see the tattoo. A heart with an arrow in it. On the inside is written Johnny plus V. And it all washes away as you remember everything you had been through together by this point. You think to yourself that he had been encased in a silicon prison for 57 years, and why wouldn't he have some fun? Doesn't he deserve it? Then you meet his old bandmates, you play a gig with them. He tries to rekindle an old love lost, and make amends with friends long forgotten. You eventually go to his grave, and you have a long conversation about how things between you were when all this started, compared to how things are now. How you two really like each other now, and how you both have changed because of the other. He asks what you would want on your gravestone, since he doesn't have one. And you say dreamer. He says that no matter what happens, he will not take over your body and mind willingly, and he will instead let go and die for you. And you tell him that if the roles were reversed, you would do the same. In between all this, you find yourself meeting a Zen master of meditation, who somehow knows about Johnny and tries to teach you something that you will be able to use to help keep your composure.
I am preparing you so that when the time comes, you will make the right choice.
Breathing. That's it. And then the lesson becomes needed. In time, you will have to choose how to proceed. Give Johnny the wheel and let him wrap up some unfinished biz with the big bads. Go alone and join up with an internal faction of big bads who wants to end the other big bad and will help you if you help them. Or call your new friends and ask them for help, risking their lives to save yours. If you skip straight through all the side quests, you won't really have much choice in the matter. Pretty much just get to do the complicated second option. And join up with the shady corpo named Hanako, daughter of the biggest of bads, and hope she wasn't lying about helping you. You don't think much of it. It's a game. There's a means to an end. It's kind of poetic that your life will be saved by those who took it. You sit and wait with Misty as she gives you her final tarot reading made specifically for you and Johnny. Then a henchman of the big bad walks in and Misty loses it. They are the reason Jackie is dead, she says. I knew you had changed. And that's when you start to realize you came all this way and hadn't learned a damn thing. Those people killed Johnny. They killed Jackie. Hell, they killed you. And now you're working for him. Before you seal Johnny away for good for the rest of this ending, his last words to you are, have some damn principle.
The principle, V. It's always about the principle.
You go in, you kill the Marcus wannabe, you reach the final boss, and you watch as the biggest bad of all, the one who did Johnny wrong, gets resurrected with the very tech killing you. In the body of his son, who killed him at the beginning of the game. You let him here. You did all of this. By ignoring Misty's tarot readings, joining with Hanako. You led the worst guy shown in this whole damn story into a fresh young body and a bona fide eternal life. You come to find out the big bad you thought was the big bad all along was trying to crush the organization altogether, just like Johnny was, but in his own way. Now you're complicit, a tool for this company's use. They hold up their end of the deal, sure. They take out the chip, and what's next is an excruciatingly long recovery you have to live through to understand how terrible it is. You're trapped on a space station, and after everything, you're told you have a choice. Go back to Earth now and certainly die within 6 months because you're too far gone from having the chip in for too long, essentially dying of cancer. Or commission yourself a brand new, big bad certified body with your very own consciousness in it. The downside? Having to give up all your rights until you get that body. So the question is, burn up in a blaze of glory, or acquiesce quietly in peace? You finally had enough of the fighting, and every decision you've made until now has been worthless. Just caused more problems. Johnny's dead, Jackie's dead. Presumably you don't have friends like River, Judy, or Pan Am. Misty hates your guts now. Victor is barely putting up with you. You are all alone on a fucking space station millions of miles from Earth. You have nothing and no one. So at this point, do you say fuck it? Take my rights. Put me in a chip as long as I can keep fighting. Or is it time to finally stop? To go slowly into that good night? Just breathe.
Slow, deep breaths.
Take all the time you need to think. I won't say any more about this ending. Go make the decision for yourself. Also, the other two are far more interesting. This is the ending I would call the bad end. It's a clear message that you're a worthless idiot. You missed the point entirely, the important message. One of many this game is trying to tell you. It's about the journey, not the destination. It's why everything gets shittier and shittier the quicker you rush into it. If you let Johnny take the wheel, he gets with Rogue and goes into the fight for you. Rogue gets murdered by Marcus, and you return the favor back to him. There's no time to grieve for her.
Afterlife. See you there.
You, Johnny, have to save V. You go to the Silicon Soul repository, you plug in, and the magic begins. You walk down a long pathway. A familiar poem being told to you by an AI you befriended to save you a long time ago. An old friend from your rocker days. You climb up a pyramid with a beam of light diving into it. The precipice upon which all of your decisions up until this point have led to. And you see V. You chat about what's to come. And the AI informs you that the body is ruined. For V. The chip has reconfigured V's brain, and now if V goes back, they will only have about 6 months to live. If Johnny goes back, then he gets to finish the life of his that ended prematurely 50 years ago. No ticking clock. Your body is made for him now. You talk to V about what to do. We stick to the plan, V says. You take the body, I'll go the other way. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. You, Johnny, also said you would give it up for V. So what will you do? In this ending, choosing V sends you back 6 months later. V will die very soon. V is in charge of the afterlife, in the wake of Rogue's passing. A living legend, made it to the top, and planning one last gig. You go to the afterlife and have a drink. The Jackie Wells.
Makes me up a Wells. Gonna drink to Jackie.
Miss him, don't you?
This place was Jack's dream, you know? Afterlife legends. That's what we were gonna be.
Well, then you made his dream come true. Good luck, V.
Only the people who die trying get a drink named after them. And how appropriate to drink to him. The one who started it all. The guy who had one goal. Become a legend in the city. And he died trying.
See you in the major leagues, Jack.
Next thing you know, you're in a space shuttle. Slowly gliding toward a massive monument called the Crystal Palace. With nothing but a pistol in hand. The plan isn't clear, but what is clear is that no matter how this goes, these are the last moments of V. burning out in a blaze of glory so high that no one on earth can touch them anymore. Is it worth it? If you give Johnny the body back, it ends up the same no matter what. Even still, it's a beautiful ending. When you sat with Johnny at his grave, you told him that you cared about him. And if he could live, you would sacrifice everything so that he could. And when the idea is presented, you quickly reject it until you stop, think, and breathe.
Easy there.
It's okay, V. Everything's okay.
He can live out the rest of a life. A real one. No ticking clock. A chance to start over, and what will you do with that time? Who cares? The amount is insignificant. Pragmatically, the decision is obvious. If you were a computer, you wouldn't even have to think about it. Of course Johnny should get the body, and you made him a promise. So it's time to let go. Let yourself give up the fight to save someone who is you on every level, especially now. Johnny plus V versus the world. In a very real way, you're still saving yourself. So much of you and Johnny are the other by now. Just don't forget us, Johnny.
Just promise me one thing, asshole. You won't forget me.
He goes back, bags packed. The bullet shoveled out of V's skull around his neck, a symbol representing the beginning of their union in mind, body, and spirit. You catch a ride with the neighbor kid, Steve. He takes you to a secondhand store where you buy a guitar. Steve wants to be a musician. His stepdad beats his ass, and Johnny has clearly become friends in the time we've missed. You teach Steve a lesson or two about life, writing music, being a good person, and leaning into what it is the heart tells him. Then he brings you to the cemetery. You go inside and you open up a spot for V, labeled Dreamer. You say goodbye and you place the symbol of your union inside. Because now that part of your life is over. It's time for you both to move on. You tell Steve you'll never forget V, and he shouldn't either. He drops you off at the bus stop. You turn in a one-way ticket out of Night City, and the bus starts to leave. Steve runs alongside, yelling that you forgot your guitar. You tell him you didn't forget anything, therefore solidifying Johnny's transformation in its final form. He's no longer selfish. He gave up on some idealistic crusade. Having a drink named after him doesn't matter anymore. The only thing that matters is a real friend gave up everything so that he could have a second chance. And you know, and he knows, that he isn't going to fuck it up. Not this time, not for anything. The camera pans away and you see V's face. Even though every single pixel on it is the same as it was before you gave it up, you can sense that it isn't V, and it isn't Johnny. It's what was the best of both of them. And somehow you know that the butterfly has hatched from its cocoon. This ending, and the last one I'll cover, I consider to be the true endings. The ones that perfectly encapsulate the ideas being put forth throughout this narrative. In the final ending, you choose to go to your friends for help. Take control of the situation. Fuck working with corpo rats. You've got principles. You would die for Pan Am and the clan, so you don't feel too bad asking them to die for you.
Is everything all right? You seem quiet. This plan. All of this. It was never a good idea.
It wasn't your idea.
Whose then?
Mine. It was my damned idea. I'm responsible for it.
And if you'd known how this would turn out?
I'd do it all over again. For anyone in the clan.
So you do. They accept, and they don't make you feel bad about it for a single second.
I'm not a miracle worker, V. I'm scared to the bone something will go wrong. That everyone will...
Sorry to have dragged you into this. Sorry.
V, stop.
Accept me into your family, and how do I repay you? By taking you on an excursion through hell. It isn't fair of me, Pan Am. It wasn't fair from the start.
You know what's not fair? Did you want me to massage your bruised conscience? Well, I won't do it. We're all in this together.
You're right.
In fact, in response to your asking them to commit suicide with you by walking into the Dragon's Den head first, they make you an official member of the clan. You all go in, guns a-blazing, together. You watch as many of them die along the way.
We're with you, V, to the very end. The Elder Carlos always keep their word.
You make it to the end, and now you, V, are walking towards the pyramid of your past accomplishments. Johnny convinces you that you need to be the one who goes back. So what if it's 6 months? You learned, finally, in the past couple of days, how to live life properly. And even though it may not be long, it's yours. Johnny already made his mistakes, lived his life, and even was lucky enough to get a second wind and get resurrected, just like you did. You climb back into your own body and wake up in Pan Am's car.
Up in smoke, with damage valued in excess of the annual budget of many a small country. Serves you right, sucker! How's it feel to be on your knees, huh?
Worry not, unwashed masses. Our wondrous lives in Night City won't change much, but when do they ever?
Talking about the plan. You and your clan are going to skip town and make a break for it. Live the quiet life. At this point, all I could think was, where's Judy? I don't want to spend the last few months on Earth without her. You call her, there's no answer. Then you arrive at the meetup point. You say hello to old friends and you turn a corner to see Judy waiting for you. You're both getting out of there together after all, just like you talked about. You sneak past a border patrol and go through a tunnel. When you come out the other side, it's nighttime. You climb out of the driver's seat and you give Pan Am the wheel, like you did with Johnny so many times before. You let go, climb out, and watch as the stars in the night sky are reflected onto the ground, representing the serene quality the rest of your life is now. These stories matter. Their meanings matter. There is a reason why you cry with Luke as he sees his father's face for the first time. There's a reason why a story can make you feel determined and powerful. There's a reason why millions beloved these stories. Mike from Red Letter Media once said, "You may not realize it, but your brain does." When a story is written properly, it's true in the truest sense. In a sense that can't quite be explained by speculating, pontificating, and guessing. It's something that is meant to be felt in your heart. In the same place where we all have Johnny trying to teach us a lesson. Because what is life, if not just a collection of experience points you earn before you last breath, and they all spill out all over the ground for others to pick up? In the end, V knows for sure that life will be good now. Not because you escaped the city and defeated the dragon. Not because the answer to all your problems is running away. Because you changed on the inside. Because of that, everything else will. You've finally let go. There's no more fear, no more bloodlust, no more revenge. Just be. Just breathe.
Perfect.